In this session, we'll be talking about Orange Klik's Elite Mastermind, which we are organizing in Italy this year, 2025, in beginning of October. And in this session, I invited two guests which are coming to the Mastermind in Italy in few months. It will be Steve and Pradeep. You will meet them shortly. And during this 1 hour, we'll chat about different stories which changed entrepreneur lives or e-commerce business owner lives while they were participating in similar events. So hello, Pradeep and Steve. I will bring you to the stage.
Hey, everybody.
Guys.
Hi, Augustus.
Hey, guys.
So these two great minds with lots of experience in getting money, getting funds. I know Pradeep now is getting next level, trying to get funds. And Steve has a big background in e-commerce and entrepreneurship. We'll talk about his first day, $1 million day, and so on. Before we jump into introduction of the event, maybe very shortly, Pradeep, maybe you can introduce yourself, and then Steve.
Oh, hey. Hey, everyone. Second session. I'm super excited. Yeah, so I have a scientist background. I dropped out of many things. E-commerce was my first kind of entrepreneurial journey. Amazon FBA, done well there, and we scaled the business. Now we moved into a kind of global commodities race. So we open companies now in 3 continents, and we're doing actually mining, the real raw commodities that makes most of the e-commerce products. But still very passionate about entrepreneurs, e-commerce. We still consult in e-commerce, still give away data. I have very close friends in e-commerce still, so love to give back, and I'm here.
Cool. And Steve, what about you?
Gosh, yeah, I've been selling a few years now. I was just thinking back, I had my first business in the late 80s, around 1989, when I was still 18 years old. And over time, I bought and sold many businesses, dozens of businesses, including my first e-com sale was made in Secure Shopping Cart was made in 1998. We were on Amazon in 2001. I've ran into Bezos a couple times, once at Amazon, once at the airport. And I've been around long enough to watch Bezos grow up into a big, tough billionaire. Well, he's still fairly small, but he's still a billionaire, so that's something.
What did you sell in 2001 on Amazon?
In 2001, I had a company called cornerhardware.com, and Amazon solicited us. I just bought that company, and we had 15,000 hardware type items. And basically, Amazon was trying to get the marketplace going. They didn't call it that. At that time, they called it Z-Shops. And so we put these 15,000 items onto Amazon from our Corner Hardware. It was completely electronic, full EDI. It did, thousands, maybe tens of thousands, but it was such a pain. After 6 months, we just turned it off, said, "No, we don't care about them. They suck." and that company did okay, on its own, but it got better on Amazon, as many people have understood. So we've really watched a time when eBay was the king of the world, right? When BlackBerry was the king of the world, and now the world has changed. And by the way, there's been several iterations of those changes.
Yes. Yeah, we'll share more stories very soon. And I wanted to bring to the screen the Orange Klik Mastermind, which we are organizing for the first time this year in October 1st to 5th. The idea of this event was born not from nothing. It was kind of suggested by the people who are attending our European Seller conference in Prague. And people were asking for more intimate event, which has possibility to talk to some really great experts one-on-one, and then that we gather a group of people who are at similar high level, which are sellers doing several millions per year in revenue. And this is what we are targeting: people who sell at least 3 million per year and want to scale to 10 million. And during these few days in Italy, We will have a chance to learn from our guests today, Steve and Pradeep. They both will provide workshops. We can talk about that later. Steve has taught and trained a lot of founders we can also hear his stories from teaching other people. And Pradeep has a lot of experience in corporate life, where a lot of big amounts of money were moving here and there, and he has some ideas how you can be bulletproof in critical stations in your business. So during these 4 days, the schedule will look as follows: that we will meet on Wednesday in the evening, and then we'll have full 3 days together, 2 full days of learning, and 1 day we will have more social day. We'll go to Rome, see the city, but during that time we'll have a possibility to chat and learn from each other as well. And then on day 5 we will say goodbye to each other. We will make friends with each other, and hopefully continue friendships and communications and partnerships afterwards. So talking about stories from these kind of events, I don't know if you guys have immediately on your mind something right now. Maybe Steve, I know you have some.
Yeah, well, there's over the course of time, you build a fair number of stories. And I can tell folks, in the last 10 years, roughly, since about 2015, I've spent about $1 million on going to events and things like that. So about $100,000 a year. And, some of them are very high level masterminds. Some of them are invite only things in Silicon Valley that, you pay $100,000, you go there and you're like, that was amazing. I'm lucky to be in the room. You're with, let's just say some heavy hitters. And then I've done many events, including flying around the world to see, Orange Klik events and others. And so I'm a big believer in investing in yourself, and I've done that continuously. And so, one of my favorite things is I genuinely get to know some of my favorite people on the entire planet at these events, where I would have never run into them in a normal day-to-day setting, right? We sell in different industries. Me. Yeah, that would include Pradeep. Yeah, frankly, it includes Augustus as well. And so, I am very lucky to have built up not just a network of, brilliant entrepreneurial associates, but dear friends around the world. And now when I travel, I'm like, I wonder who I know in Taipei, or I wonder who I know in, this town or that town. It's a real pleasure to be able to have that luxury of life.
So partnerships and friendships is one thing, and another thing is when it changes your business or life when meeting these people. Do you recall any stories? I don't know, Pradeep, you have some, or we start with Steve?
So meeting people, I mean, Steve was a huge inspiration. He's one of the second or third Amazon event. When I heard he did $1 million, we done things in corporate, but when you see a person do it on his own company through this new venture or e-commerce, it was quite inspiring. So when you share those stories, I think you get inspired and motivated. But it's important to keep your connections going. That's what I say to them. And also, the downside is don't get addicted to it. It's like a high. You keep going to events, it's good, but you got to get some work done as well. So getting inspired is good, but get the work done.
Steve, can you share your story about getting 1 million in one day?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you guys the consolidated version. If you search around, you can find where I've gave a more lengthy explanation. But really, we had reached a place in the company where it was very common for us to have sale events. And so we would have, Monday was always a good day online, and Fridays were not so good. So we would make promotions end on Friday. And we would do, decent business. On an average, Friday we might do $500,000-$600,000. Sometimes it would reach to $700,000, and we were excited. And by the way, this is all direct to consumer, D2C. Amazon was not a player at that time. This is around 2006, I would say, my first attempt at $1 million day. And so the crux of the story really is, as I'm sharing this with the team, and we probably had a couple hundred employees at that time, and I had 9 direct reports, you know, the CFO, COO, CMO, etc. And all of these guys, I could tell they weren't really believing it, because at the beginning of the year, I said, this is the year we're going to have $1 million day. And I stamped my hand down and, you know, so let it be written, so let it be done, right? The leader has spoken, everybody hop on board. And nobody hopped on board. Like they were like, okay, cool story. You know, we got things to do. If this meeting's over, let's wrap it up and get on to the next thing, right? They were not really paying attention. And to be honest with you, that was, I laid down the law in January of that year. By about September, I'm like, crap, we have not hit $1 million day, and we need one. Otherwise, my promise of hitting $1 million day will be wrong. So by the end of September, I said, okay, here's the date. I picked the day in November. And for this particular industry, it worked out, you know, that's kind of the peak time. And I told everybody, let's get on board right now. I'm really rallying the troops. And again, they're kind of giving me the, okay, Steve, yeah, you're super inspirational. This is going to go great, right? They were just brushing me off. That's the truth of it, which is a lesson in leadership or lack thereof. So I could sense that this was like, if I'm telling my 9 people and then they have to tell their people, and it's supposed to get out to the entire organization, which was across the United States in, I don't know, a couple dozen locations. We had these little warehouses that helped us organize and facilitate cheap logistics, fast service, etc. Anyway, my leaders were not getting on board. That's the bottom line. And so I at one point, I just made everybody go up to the whiteboard. I always have whiteboards. There's a couple back there. And I said, all right, go write your name and write how much we're going to do on November 17th or whatever it was. And so each of them go up there, and only 2 people wrote $1 million or higher. One was the sales, and he's right. He just writes 1 million even, as if that's going to be the number, right? And then I think marketing, he wrote 1.2. Everybody else is like 700, 600, 800. Like they were not believing it. And so I had to really understand, you know, as a leader, I've got to, you know, push, prod, poke, whatever I got to do to lead the team up the hill. So I just energized the efforts every single day. What are you doing to, you know, be ready for the $1 million day? Every department, logistics, sales, marketing, whatever it was. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? To where by the end of October, everybody's just like, you know, the $1 million day, it's happening. We got to do it. It's happening. By the way, then it turns out I had to go on vacation. My wife at the time had booked a vacation, and we were going to be in Mexico on that day. So I'll see y'all later. Enjoy it. Have a good time, right? And this was back in the BlackBerry days. So A, I'm not there. B, I can't inspire my own leadership team. And C, it's now stinks of desperation, right? That's the truth of it. So anyway, so I'm down in Mexico, and I've got my BlackBerry. I'm on the beach early in the morning. I have pictures of my wife took pictures of me, you know, looking at the BlackBerry on the beach in that morning. And all I'm doing is refresh, because I got the dashboard. And, you know, by 10 a.m., things are looking pretty good, right? And gosh, by noon, we're looking pretty strong. By 1 p.m., we had passed the million. By the end of the day, 1.7 million. And then everybody believed we could do it. And this is kind of the point is, you know, first something seems impossible. Can we do $1 million in a year? Can we do $1 million in a month? Can we do $1 million in a day? Everything seems impossible until it happens. It's the running the 4-minute mile, all of that stuff. And I'm happy to say that while that was a great ending for us, and we went on to do many other days, you know, that and much higher. As I've told this story, I've had many sellers come back to me. Some people in the Catalyst 88 Mastermind group, which we had running from the late teens. And they're like, oh, we had our first, you know, $1 million day or first $2 million days, right? And even recently, I've had other folks, friends who've come up and said, yeah, we just had our first $1 million TikTok day, or we did our first $1 million day, because it's a milestone that we can all wrap our heads around. It's phenomenal, it's fun, and the most important part of that story is, although my lack of leadership got us off to a weak start, everything worked. The systems, the people, everything just worked on that day. There was no pain. There was no breakage. Everything just worked. So that was a fun one, an old one.
It's nice that it worked. Do you think it's because you had like good systems and people knew what to do, or you
Well,
were
for sure.
lucky?
Yeah, for sure. Finally, everybody got on board, but the systems were the ultimate key, because if you went back 5 years earlier, maybe it was 6 years earlier, I can't remember, we did about, over the course of 2 weeks, we did about $45,000 when we first broke out and had our internet moment. Everything broke. The entire company melted down. We took the phone number off the website. Like, everything was a terrible, and just 5 years preceding that. So a complete meltdown for 44 grand over 2 weeks, or 1.7 million a day. And things were brisk. Things were happening. It was, people talked about electricity. I was on vacation, so I don't know. But I can say that everybody knew their role. Everybody executed with excellence. And we, well, not only did we crush that, we went on to do other similar events that, just produce bigger and bigger days.
Yeah, cool. And talking about millions, and when you want to reach these numbers, I think the cash flow is very important. And maybe Pradeep, you can touch a little bit about having right finances for possibility to scale your business. And I know you helped or talked about getting finances with some of our attendees at the European Seller Conference in Prague, and I know you are dealing right now with these kind of issues. Can you tell a little bit about this?
Yeah, I mean, to Steve's point, systems are very important. You see a leader, he's on holiday and the systems work, right? And you hit the target. That's testimony to how important systems are. So look, financing in any level is very important. Here, by the way, full consent here that I'm traveling now in the UK trying to get financing from various government agencies, banks, and so forth. So I'm doing it here, even at this level or lower level, and even in corporate level. One thing I would start off saying is financing is very different in Europe or every country compared to America, or America compared to other global regions. That's something people have to understand. So that's down to risk, reward, culture. So what we need, if you look at the mastermind and what we're concentrating on is 3 to 10 million, is yes, you have revenue already coming in. It's how you show that revenue and how you actually gear towards it. Personally, we couldn't scale any facets of life without cash coming in, but also showing it. So when I was scaling the Amazon business, my greatest struggle was, hey, I was in the UK, but the e-commerce doing kind of in the pandemic and so forth, the UK recognized certain cash flows in banks and so forth, but they were not willing to take the risk because they didn't think that at the start of the pandemic or just before the pandemic, e-commerce was actually a viable source of income compared to bricks and mortar and so forth. So really the pool of people you can go to were different compared to the pool of people where you can go to now. So that's very important. How much am I going to raise? Where am I going for? And is my revenue cash flow showing the right numbers? I go around the world and everyone's like talking savvy. Hey, I avoided this tax, this VAT, this. No, pay your bills. Be good to the country you actually work in, right? Because it shows a good set of finance and audits show you strength, and you go on. Obviously, be a bit savvy and don't pay all the what you can, but show proof. Be a good citizen. And this is, people think I'm crazy when I say this, but that actually helps you actually have a strong backbone. So we did that, and we always did very good reports around the world. And how you use a global group and where you go to raise funding is very important. So the way we scaled was, we raised it with my circle of friends and also circle of investors. So I actually took Bezos's ethos. I listened to him from a very young stage, and he said his first $1 million raise was, I think, 50,000 investors at $50,000, 20 people, and that was his key, and they done very well, and they're rewarded because their risks are the same. Some of them he actually had 60 meetings, and 20 turned out to say yes, we can. So that's a third. So that was the group, and I knew I had to target them because the UK revenue and the pool of kind of institutional investors were totally wrong. Then when we scaled up, and then when people had a good kind of, hey, this guy is doing well, or e-commerce is going to do well, then the inventory finances came, and then we showed European books, we showed American books, and by the way, because our audited accounts were quite strong, then you had inventory financing, and then we scaled on bank loans. So really, it was personal, friend circle, then getting on to inventory financing, or people who companies that can finance different supply chain aspects, even some now finance marketing, and then it was the institutionalized guys. And that's throughout. When I was in corporate, when I was in China, there's no way the European banks would fund a Chinese company kind of acquire, or the European side. So it's really know what your revenue is, what your target is, and who you're going to ask for money. And that's what really helped me. And without that kind of principle working out, even now, I am not succeeding.
And if you join us at the Orange Klik Elite Mastermind in Italy, you will have a chance to talk to Pradeep in more details about securing funding and getting his tips how to do that. And I wanted to ask Steve, you attend a lot of these kind of events, and I know once you helped a seller to deal with Chinese factory and saved that seller 6 figures of loss, right? Can you tell a little bit?
Yeah, so it's quite common for companies as they scale to get well, I don't know if you guys use this phrase, but we in the US we say get over their skis, right? They're hanging out over their skis, they're going to fall over, they're off balance. And so this particular seller, they were growing, they were doing a lot of great things, but I said to them, based on some of the clues they were giving me, I said, I have some concerns about what you're telling me, right? You're talking about a lot of things where you're excited about this, but you're short on funds. You had a quality problem. You haven't really been running inspections because you trust your factory, like a bunch of things that are red flags to me. I'll just say it right now. All right. And so I started asking questions and I'm like, man, you're killing me here. So I said, you've got to start inspecting stuff. You absolutely can get terms from these guys. You're at enough of a scale to get terms. And there's no reason in the world that this quality problem should be ongoing. Like that's not a thing. Like you can have a quality issue, but it should be preventative at that point forward, where you trace back the cause and then you establish the solution, and then that problem is gone. You find some new problem. That's the truth of it. But that's the nature of manufacturing. And I've been in, thousands of factories around the world. So we had this conversation. It was pleasant. It was nice. They took it on. And then they followed up and they said, hey, we have this PO. It's for, I don't even remember, 175 or 185,000, some number that was reasonable. And they go, because of the quality, I'm trying to get them to give me 5,000 back on these returns or this or that. And so I just structured basically a conversation for them. And I even offered to have one of my guys in China to go over and do the talk with them or for them. And basically it was like, A, we're taking this deduction on the next order. B, we're taking financing. And C, if we have the same problem in the future, for every single time we have the problem, you're going to get charged a $750 incident fee and whatever returns we get. And we just started tracking everything, and we kind of gave them a system to do that. And first of all, when I told the seller, they're like, well, there's no way they're going to give me any of that, right? And I said, I understand, but you got to start somewhere. And I can say that, the seller, in addition with the person that I sent with them, negotiated the deal. They got the terms, they got the deduction, and they got the future agreement, which is one of the biggest signals you could send to a factory is if we have this same problem, and you have to be objective and fair about what that problem is, we're going to start tracking a claim or an incident fee or whatever you want to call it. Some people call it a claim fee. And every time we have to investigate this, do a bunch of paperwork, we're charging you $750 plus the actual damages. And it gives the factory a very clear incentive. Don't do this. Like factories don't want to pay $20 for a good pallet, right? They definitely don't want to pay $750 for an incident fee. And this is built up over time. It's built up over volume, and it's built up over trust. You can't just do this on your first day if you don't know anybody or you don't have any volume. But he had enough volume, he had enough power. And by the way, he got terms from then on forever from that from that factory, and it was no problem. And the factory's like, yeah, we're happy to cooperate. We want you to grow. And so, solving a bunch of problems at one time came as a direct result of us being in the same room at a mastermind.
So yeah, sellers are coming and they don't see specific, they don't even see a problem, and then they just mention this, and then people like you who are experienced, they hear that and like, come on, wait, we can fix it. Nice. And talking about,
I want to jump in that point because I showed that example. Steve's absolutely right, but one thing is that I don't is keep continuously checking and check down what each actual component of each thing is actually costing, because we saved someone, I think, $12 to $16 because they were labeling something in another factory and sending it back because of one label and packaging and sending it forward. And that actually tanked the company. It was distressed asset, but they could have saved so much on each single unit because they trusted their suppliers and everything was in systems and everything looked good until it didn't.
And talking about suppliers, I know that Pradeep, you wanted to share a little bit about shipping delays, how entrepreneurs and e-commerce sellers could deal with that.
Buy your own ship. No, do not get into the shipping industry. It's overcrowded and it's.
You tried.
That was a joke. Onassis will be turning his grave now. So essentially, we had, obviously the financing was just a kind of a business OpEx thing that we had to get over. The two things that really hit us, one is shipping, and the second thing I'll talk about later is that really nearly tanked our company and was really stressful for me. Was that this factory didn't just ship things on time, and we had multiple at that point kind of arenas or continents in the US marketplace and also Europe and the UK to actually deliver to. I had to really get on the phone. I had to get someone on the ground in China to actually go and check. And at the end of the day, I had to force my company in China to actually use a different freight forwarder that I actually source locally. That's how we got things done. And it can be a nuisance, but it has to be done. And also use reliable individuals. So that was really, really hard on us. And I personally thought I've lost the game because I was so delayed. And Amazon and now, rankings all going down, and there's no way around it. And the goods just didn't leave China. It's harder if it's easier in the water, but then in the home ports you have more control because more of a Western kind of philosophy. You can kind of hammer down what's happening in the US or UK or Europe. But when it's in China, you really need someone on the ground with local language expertise. And I remember I actually sent this again, meeting people and having the right people. I actually sent one of my old PhD students, a family member who was in that region, to actually go and talk to the factory. So that's how I got through that. Also, it's being resourceful. So that's important. But yeah, at the end of the day, we worked that out because we found a new freight forwarder, I should say, and then made sure our company used that. But we're at the stage where we had leverage over that as well because we had good terms negotiated. We can say, hey, we're not giving you the other portion of the deposit or the next payment unless this gets shipped immediately.
Yeah. Steve, I know that once you participated in some mastermind and you had a story of a seller who was using photos of the supplier and he got some legal issues, right?
Yeah, it's a real pickle and a shame. One of my favorite people, and they were basically, we're talking about packaging or whatever. And again, this is one of those times where the philosophy was like, how do you shrink your package? How do you get your package better? How do like a lot of the optimization concepts. And the first thing I asked when the package went up on the screen, we're doing this as a kind of a hot seat in a mastermind. And I said, where'd you get the photos? And they're like, oh, the factory provided them. I'm like, red alert. Like, I'm already panic stricken. Like, that is the worst news ever. And And they're like, oh, no, we trust these guys. They've been to our house. You know, they give me the normal kind of the Chinese supplier manipulation moves. Oh, they've sent their kid to stay with me. We're very close friends. Oh, you've never seen a relationship like this. Oh, we are, you know, there's nobody tighter than me in my factory, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, I don't trust a factory. Or I will trust, but I'll verify. To Pradeep's point, I never stop checking. Every shipment forever will always be inspected. And if we're getting problems, we'll inspect pre-shipment. We'll go upstream and look for the raw materials. We'll make sure the production processes, like everything we got to do, we will do to prevent problems. When you do that, that's when you avoid trouble. So anyway, I raised my hand, I said the thing, and anyway, I don't remember if it's 6 months or 9 months later, they were back at another mastermind. This was an annual thing. And these sweet people, some of my best, buddies, they're like, bad news. We got sued for copyright infringement. And it turned out the factory had just stole some other brand's photos. And, now they're all over this guy's product. And it was a low six-figure settlement to make that go away. And this is a lesson to anybody, particularly in the world we live in today with AI. Like, getting nice photos and getting production is not a problem. Do not take stuff from your factory, particularly when it's intellectual property, particularly when it could be protected intellectual property. And that was a $100,000 lesson that didn't have to be learned. And I really want to just stress that, at the time I said it, they were like, yeah, cute story, Steve. You're always so worried about everything. I don't know what the problem is with you. You're Mr. Worry. And later the worry showed up, right? And so this is one of those things, like, it's not, I don't worry because I like to worry. I go, oh, I've been sued on that, or I've had to sue somebody for that, or, whatever it is. Once you have experience, your spidey sense just starts tingling at the slightest hint of potential trouble. And the thing that I care about the most, obviously my kids are number one and my family and so forth, but in the business world is my fellow entrepreneurs. I love entrepreneurs, not like people love cheese pizza or whatever. Like, I love entrepreneurs. I want to see as many as I can be successful. And when you walk over a landmine, particularly when I'm like, you're standing on a landmine, get off the landmine. They're like, no, it's kind of comfortable here. That's when, I want to lose my mind. So it was a shame, but, everybody in that group knew from then on, we never use factory photos. So now too.
It's nice example when, like, people don't think they have a problem and they just present something completely different. And then you see that they might have a problem, but sometimes people need to learn themselves to acknowledge that there was a problem.
Unfortunately, that story comes up more times than I care to remember. I remember being on a bus, a similar issue, or the guy's telling me all these things he's got going. I'm like, I've got some concerns. Here's some little things you should check into. Like, I'm not trying to panic anybody, but like, here's how you go. Just double check this. And, 6 months later, he's like, oh my gosh, you were so right on the bus. I should have listened right then. And this makes me sad. I don't like to hear these stories. I want to hear because you told me this, I was able to avoid trouble. Not you are right. Like, I hate being right all the time.
And what do you think about, nowadays there are so many good AI tools which can make your product in any environment. Do you suggest people to use these tools instead of photographer? I think they are really good, these tools.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there will come a time, it's not quite yet, but there will come a time where the idea of sending a product to a studio or doing a live photo shoot or whatever will be not just passe, but idiotic, like the cost and the time. Now, there will be a world, I believe, that is focused on genuine, authentic, and it's like, oh, these guys are all doing human stuff. Well, what a pioneers they are. But for the rest of us who need, to stretch our budget, there are incredibly powerful tools, not just for photo shoots, but videos. I've got a team of AI experts running around doing some brand videos, and they're not perfect yet. But I tell you, a year from now, 2 years from now, they're going to be so spectacular that any brand who is falling behind in the AI scrutiny, like looking at AI tools, and I like to call them point-to-point wins. What's a trigger point that you can put into a system, have the AI deal with it, and then have an output that you can judge objectively. point-to-point wins, the easy wins for entrepreneurs in AI are the things that people should concentrate on for the next 12 to 24 months for sure.
So yeah, that seller had a legal issue with the photos. And Pradeep, can you share some stories from your experience when like accounts were blocked because of some issues, or how did you deal with that?
Yeah, first of all, I love entrepreneurs and pizza and cheese and burgers. I can't differentiate. Maybe entrepreneurs whilst eating pizza and burgers are also good as well, which might happen in mastermind. Haha, there you go. Nice segue. But to my second point, that nearly tanked the company, it really stressed me out. I used to tell my students, well, if you experiment, you don't know what you don't know. Keep experimenting. I did not know what I did not know in terms of how certain individuals or corporations, different countries can use IP. So one of our top sellers that actually fascinated me in terms of I can really sell anything if the price is right, the branding is right. Was lint removers, simple lint removers. And we had a great kind of margin with Chinese factories that we knew. That was in 2021 or 2020. And it was doing well. It's our top product. But I never knew someone can take our brand and IP, the actual lint remover in China, and then launch a patent. We had trademarks and patents. I kind of sussed that out in the UK and Europe and the USA. But then this was just a wild west. Like you don't know what you don't know. And it really tanked us. It went from our top seller, the whole brand just tanked. And it was not ranked. It was completely pulled off by Amazon. We're like, what is going on? And we couldn't get an answer. I had to, we're lucky with account manager, and he at the time, and then became another lady, kind of told us what to do, but I was dumbfounded. So that really hurt the company. Actually, revenue went down. Lucky we had brands and other things going on in other places. We're kind of bandaging ourselves in different places. So the solution there was, I tried the whole write to Jeff, Kenny's email, didn't work. We had IP lawyers kind of doing the states, it didn't work. So we had to pay an independent consultant who was a specialist in this niche, who actually worked in Amazon before, and he sorted it out. So sometimes you just have to pay up and get the right people on your team to get it done. But you don't know what you don't know, and there's very sneaky black hat tactics. Amazon is much better now. The systems are in place now to do that, but you still got these individuals who kind of harass you and find ways around it. So that was my kind of second kind of heart to mouth kind of moment.
It seems like you sorted out and it was working well, right? With that independent consultant.
You use the ranking, you lose a lot of marketing budget, and then you have to up the budget again to rank again. And it's hard, but you got to learn. It's an expensive learning curve. But again, looking back, obviously I didn't know Steve then or anyone, but I still couldn't predict that moment. There's no way, there's no data that came to my mind or any dots I could join to predict that.
All right. So both of these great minds you can meet at Orange Klik Mastermind in Italy, which we are organizing upcoming October 1st, from October 1st to October 5th. And during these few days in sunny Italy, sunny Rome, you will be able to get 2 workshops. Even I think Steve is ready to give additional workshop about AI, right, Steve? I think you mentioned that.
Yeah, so, we'll definitely be heavy AI.
Heavy AI. So Steve will share the materials he is usually using for teaching founders and CEOs of big companies. And this time he is ready to share his knowledge in Italy as well. And Pradeep, can you share a little bit about your workshop in Italy?
Yeah, so not much intelligence, artificial. I really wanted, I'm very excited about this. It's the first time I actually used to do with my corporate environment and my also academic environment is I love to put people through real world scenarios. So I've actually made the list up and we're gonna do groups of 5 or 6. We're gonna have some lectures in between, but real world scenarios. This has happened to your account. This might happen geopolitically. This is happened on the shipping line. What do you do? And how do you kind of tackle it? The problems we faced on this call today. And then we'll split the team up into a CEO, CFO, CMO, Chief of Marketing, and then see what each individual do in a scenario. And then we kind of rotate. So it's really, I'm fascinated about thinking. Not exactly, a typical kind of Amazon event, PPC or supply sourcing and so forth, but more in-depth thinking. How am I thinking about this problem? How do I get through this? What's the data available? What happens when there's no data available and evidence available? And how do I get through it? And the more scenarios you go through, and we go through some of the top 5 or 6, the more outcomes you have to tackle any problem. So you probably walk away with a set of thinking skills, which I'm quite excited to share with you guys.
Yes, amazing. I wanted to talk about the price because this event which we're offering maybe is priced a little bit higher than people usually see Orange Click events sold for. And I want to explain that in this price includes private villa in Italy near Rome. So it's a lot of several thousands or tens of thousands euros already we have to cover for the villa. But talking about the experts you will meet, like for example, Steve, who is on this call. Steve, once you said that you are charging companies 50 or 15,000. Can you tell
50.
your price?
So Fortune 500 companies who book with me pay $50,000 a day. If you do buy more than 20 days, then I knock it down to 25 grand a day. But that's a hefty upfront investment, and I hate doing those, and I rarely do them because they lead to no joy. This I'll make no money, and I'll have pure joy. So the 4,000 euros is a steal, and I think it's a very fair price, especially you're throwing in everything. It's like an unbelievable bargain, frankly.
Yeah, and as other events, they don't include accommodation, but this price already includes 4 nights at the villa. So normally you would pay probably close to 1,000 euros in that place, and all the meals. And so if you come to European Seller Conference in Prague, our flagship event, which we do annually, usually you have to pay additional accommodation, meals on other days, which are when it's outside the conference. But here, this time, you will receive also dinners and breakfast, everything. And
may I add a point here, Augustus, please?
Yes.
So people know how stingy I am with events. I'm very careful in Amazon events and world. And my question is, what is my ROI here? And the ROI here is Steve's already mentioned 100K problem he solved for a seller specifically. I've solved 600K in kind of problems for my 2 problems I had. So really, it's a select group, smaller group, and what you'll find out is that we'll give you solutions that are practical to existing problems or problems that will come up. And really, the ROI is you saving money because you actually saw the problems coming. So the 4,000 you're spending here is that you're saving much more in the future as well. So that's how I kind of predicted events. And that's why I went to very select masterminds and not conferences. And if I did, I was told to speak at those. So for me, these kind of smaller conferences made me think, hey, I can mitigate problems because I went there and I heard of problems and I can see them coming. And so it will save me hundreds of thousands compared to the 4,000 I spent. What do you think, Steve?
Cool.
Well, I could just say, like, the right question for any entrepreneur is a simple one, which is, I got a big old stack of money. Am I going to get a big old stack of benefits? And ideally, that benefit stack should be 10x the stack of money, right? And Pradeep has just outlined how it could be much more than 10x. But in the last live session we did with the three of us, I listed a series of questions people should ask themselves. And I highly recommend, if you haven't seen that, go take a look at it. Any one of those questions could be a 6-figure payoff for you if you can answer those questions. And many times, including on a mastermind myself, the pivotal difference came to me. My first mastermind was in like 80 something, maybe 91, 92, somewhere between 88 and 92. I don't know. And it was on a cruise ship, and I met one of my greatest mentors ever. And he told me things that I had not even thought about, right? The things I didn't know that I needed to know. And that has continued to pay, 30 plus years later, right? And so I implore sellers, if you find yourself ever feeling stuck, if you find yourself ever wondering if you're on that path, if you wonder if you have a real business, if you just are wondering, how do I go from here to there? This is the kind of place you should be. And I don't really care if you're coming from America or Australia or Europe or, down the street in Rome, like you should get there, because otherwise it's ethereal. All of this knowledge will disappear. There's no way to capture it later. It's a moment in time that, for me, I find them to be especially formative, not just for friendships, but also business knowledge. So I'm a big believer. I put my money where my mouth is. I've spent $1 million on this stuff. I'll continue to spend because it's the most valuable thing I do is invest in myself.
Actually, that's a great point as well. I forgot. If you are American or Australian, why not come to European marketplace? Because you'll find European experts and marketplace experts. And if you're trying to expand there into that marketplace, this is the kind of best friends, kind of group of people you want to be with as well. So that's a good point, Steve.
And this is what we promote in the European Seller Conference in Prague, when 35 different nations and countries are represented. I traveled myself a lot, and I know how important it is to get in touch with people from different cultures, because they have different mindsets, they different values. The same like we Europeans maybe don't have these skills to sell things, and American people have these they are growing up with the abilities and mindset of selling things. And I think this is a big difference. And talking about the question, yeah.
I'm sorry, Augustus, because I want to just make one comment. Even in America, sometimes when you grow up, you're like, I don't want to be sold to, right? Mm-hmm. Watch out, that guy's a salesman, right? But nothing happens without a sales guy, right? You're the can of beans at the grocery store. Somebody sold that can of beans at the grocery store. Somebody sold the guy the can that the beans went into. Somebody sold the beans to the guy with the cannery, right? Somebody sold the equipment to the farmer who made the beans. Like, everybody is always selling. And the question is, we're not selling against you, we're selling for you. We're trying to share a message. And I think this is the most important part to me. This is to benefit people. This is not to take. This is to return. And I think you could, just go out and find people who know Pradeep and Augustus and myself, and just go to these guys pay it forward, or to these guys, running some sort of internet hustle. And I can assure you, we are givers, not takers.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. And once again, you will find the link to this event below this video, or you can visit orangeclick.com/elite. And I like that Steve mentioned the 3 questions he shared for entrepreneurs to consider when growing the business, which he mentioned in the previous video. We will put a link to this video as well. And to be honest, it is the only slide I screenshotted during our previous session, and I saved in my computer and I opened again. It's really powerful questions to consider when you're running any kind of business. So I encourage you to watch that video. All right. Thank you very much, Steve and Pradeep. It was nice to have you here again. And we will I will see you, but we will, those who will join the mastermind in Italy will also be able to get advice from you, especially where Steve is charging companies $50,000 for the whole day. Now you can be with Steve for the 3 full days.
But half those days I'm going to wear headphones and not talk to anybody. No, I'm just kidding. No, I love entrepreneurs. I'll be there the whole time and absolutely interested in every problem, opportunity, win, everything that somebody has. And I look forward to learning from all of you guys as well.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Pradeep. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And this is the link to the session we just mentioned where we talked again with Pradeep and Steve. And in his presentation, Steve shared some really insightful questions you can ask yourself when you want to grow your business. So check this out.